What up? What up? What up? MM Still Broke Podcast. We in the building. Super Bowl is upon us. So we had to get it in. We had to talk a little bit about this game. Who's gonna win it? What's the reasons behind it? Who we got? All that good stuff. So as we know, history could be made. Kansas City Chiefs going for the three-peat. Never been done before. Never even been attempted as far as getting this far to actually being able to win a Super Bowl to get to the three-peat. Teams have made it to the AFC or NFC Championship, but never to the Super Bowl round. Greatness is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. It is upon us. And we shouldn't shy away from it whatsoever. But I want to attack the elephant in the room first and foremost, and that's about the whole ref situation. And the simple fact that people keep bringing up the refs, like the refs are the reason why the Kansas City Chiefs keep winning, is ridiculous. And it's also I've heard from a lot of athletes too that are playing, man, it's some cowards, you know what? You're just not good enough. Simple as that. Like, it is so difficult to do what the Kansas City Chiefs are doing. It is so hard. Guys that have been involved in it, guys that have been in sports, guys that have been in a single elimination tournament every year to play your best ball when you don't even have the best team every year, and to come out victorious because you essentially have the best quarterback, the best head coach, one of the best D coordinators, and some of the great primetime players in football that you see when it's crunch time over these last couple of years, man. Do not take anything away from that team. Don't do it. Don't try to act like it's the refs doing it for them. Don't try to steal the amount of work and preparation that they put into the game to put themselves in position to win football games. It is very difficult to do. And a lot of times when we can't explain it and we can't do it, we want to act like somebody else has cheated us. Or we want to act like that, they're not as good as we thought. When you had an opportunity, you had an opportunity. But every time you have the opportunity, you don't capitalize. That's just life, ladies and gentlemen. That's just life. Sometimes people take advantage of opportunities that you don't. And the Chiefs somehow take advantage of opportunities every chance they get. So don't come in here and say, because the Chiefs, when a turnover happens or when this happens or when something happens, they take advantage of it and you don't. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. They do. They make the plays in crunch time. They're not perfect by any means, but they make the plays when plays need to be made. And that's why they're in position to win their third straight Super Bowl, something that no team has ever done, and it ain't the refs. It is not the refs. It is them. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's give them, their just due. As the kids will say, let's give them their flowers, when it comes to that. But, let's not talk about it as if the refs are helping them win football games. Now, also real quick before I get into the actual game itself, I have to get this off my chest. And one of the pet peeves of mine for people who are covering the game and doing what I'm doing, but they're actually in New Orleans asking the questions and covering the game. Could we stop asking the players who they want to win or who they got in the game? Can we stop that? And you know why? Because most players don't have a dog in the fight. Unless it was one of their childhood teams, they don't really care. And on top of that, especially if it's a rival, then we get the dumb answer of, well, I hope both of them lose. Well, you know what? They're not going to both lose. So who do you want? Okay? And we're going to ask the question and give me the answer. But I guess if I ask you a dumb question and you give me a dumb answer, I have to deal with it. So you know what? Stop asking a question to these guys, especially guys that are rivals of Kansas City or who lost to Kansas City. And like, well, who do you got in the game? Well, what do you think they're going to say? What do you think they're going to say? They're bitter. They don't want to. I hope they both lose. Well, they're not going to both lose. One's going to win. One's going to lose. So who the hell you got? All right? Stop playing with me. So I don't have to get that dumb answer, I'm not going to ask the dumb question. So let's stop asking that question. Please, please, please. Okay. Now, as they say, I digress, and we'll move on. As far as the game is concerned, you know what? This is a tough game for me to pick because Philadelphia has the better team. Simple as that. They got the best O-line. They got the best running back. They got the best defense. They have the better team. They do. Again, number one in defense, number one, I would say top 3 O-line at worst, top running back in the game, and their receiving core or their duo with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, top 3 at worst, top 5 in the league? So the only position where basically the Kansas City Chiefs have the advantage is at quarterback and at coach. That's it. And tight end. That's it. That is it. And Kelce isn't the Kelce that we have, but I still take Kelce over that. So that's the only place where Kansas City is better than Philly. Philly has the better team. Okay, they want to run the football. Can Kansas City stop the run or can't they? And that's going to be a big deal. I said last week, my biggest concern about Kansas City were the busts that they had in the defensive secondary. Although they were sending guys and they were blitzing guys, if they didn't get home, guys were open. If you look at the last play of the game, they got home on Josh Allen, but Kincaid's running open. Like, he's wide open. Okay? If you remember the fourth down where Curtis Samuel catches the touchdown, they send a blitz on that play. Curtis Samuel's wide open in the back of the end zone. There were a lot of defensive confusion in that secondary in the AFC Championship game. Now, I think they get that corrected. I think that that's not something that we should see in the Super Bowl because we haven't seen it with Kansas City. They're usually pretty buttoned up and tightened up back in the secondary. They don't make those type of mistakes, but to ignore them and say they weren't there, those are my concerns with Kansas City. So the reality of the situation is that Philly can exploit you both ways, but I think they're going to heat up Jalen Hurts. I really do. I think they're going to listen. Philly's going to have to run the football and time on possession. And this time, I don't know if the Saquon home run hitters are what they really want because now it's points on the board, but they want to keep the ball out of Kansas City's hands. They want to keep it out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. And that's not who Saquon is. Saquon's a home run hitter. So there's going to be some, if Saquon gets off, you're going to see the big runs. You're going to see that. But can Jalen Hurts take advantage of Kansas City in the secondary? Because they're going to heat Jalen Hurts up on the passing downs. Can they get Philly behind the sticks? If they can get Philly behind the sticks in the second and longs and third and longs, when they're allowed to dictate terms defensively, and they can send heat at Jalen Hurts, can Jalen Hurts dissect fast enough? Can he get the ball out of his hands to the right place fast enough? Or will he be able to make plays with his feet and break tackles and be an athlete and be who Jalen Hurts is? That's going to determine what this game is. If Philly can stay ahead of the sticks, they win the football game. If Philly's behind the sticks and Kansas City can dictate terms for them defensively, then I think Kansas City has the advantage there because they're going to make Jalen Hurts, and their plan is to make Jalen Hurts make decisions. Simple as that. And they have to find out if Jalen Hurts can do that. And we can't sit here and say that we know that consistently he's been able to do that because he hasn't been. He hasn't been. Not saying that it can't happen. Not saying that it won't happen. It is any given Sunday. All right, he can have the game of his life. We've seen him play well against Kansas City, so he knows he can play well against Kansas City. He knows what happened in the last Super Bowl. He played very well. So we're going to see, though, if he can do it again. And if they can keep Philly behind the sticks and they can dictate terms and dictate blitzes, and Kansas City is sound in the secondary and is not blowing coverage and not busting coverage like we saw a week ago, then that gives them the advantage defensively. If they cannot, and Philly can dictate terms running the football, then they have the supreme advantage that way. Okay? Now, on the other end of it, I believe that Andy Reid's going to find a way and Patrick Mahomes are going to find a way. They always do. They don't have the best receiver in the game. They probably don't have the top two. I think if you're picking receivers, you're probably going to take A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith before you start to get to any of the Kansas City receivers. But what they do is they scheme guys open so well. And they let Patrick dissect so well. So when you got to look at it with Hollywood Brown and with Xavier Worthy, with DeAndre Hopkins, I almost forgot his name, with that guy, and Boo Boo Smith-Schuster, with all those guys, can they muster it up and then bring a Kelce in there? Now, Philly has struggled against tight ends. They really have, but I doubt that they're just going to let Kelce run wide open, but we've seen it happen plenty of times. Okay, we've seen it happen plenty of times. So even though Philly comes in with the number one defense in football, can they put enough pressure on Patrick Mahomes to basically get him to struggle and make bad decisions? I can't see that happening. I really can't. I don't. So to sum it all up and not to take too long and to go into every single number, when efficiencies and all this, it's been a tough pick because I honestly look at Philly and I say to myself, again, they have the better players. This team, I wouldn't say they're a better coach, even though they have a great coach in Vic Fangio. Now he's 0-8 against these guys. He's 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes of Kansas City now. But he's a very good D coordinator and he knows what he's doing. Kellen Moore, soon to be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, he's a very good OC. All right? The guys seem to like Nick Sirianni a lot. Now, he's not on Andy Reid's level whatsoever. But they have the better players. Okay? But with that being said, I'm still going with Kansas City. And the reason why I'm going with Kansas City is because, you know what? It's a safer bet. It's a safer bet, and you know what? I am rooting for greatness. I am not a Philly fan. I'm not a Philly fan. Not a Philly hater. I'm not a Chiefs fan. I'm not a Chiefs fan. I'm not a Chiefs hater. So, again, I don't have a dog in the fight. But when you get to this point and teams that great, I'm going to take the greatest player. If Patrick Mahomes is the guy that we say he is, if he's what we think he is, he becomes great on this stage. That's just what it is. When you have the opportunity to do something that nobody else has ever done, and probably that nobody else will ever have the opportunity to do in the future. Again, this has only happened. This is the only time this has happened in the history of the NFL. So to say it's going to happen again, history is not on our side. The odds are not on our side, ladies and gentlemen. So to get in this position, to have the opportunity to do this, and to be what we think you are, and to sit here and say, are you challenging Tom Brady to be the GOAT, to be the greatest player to ever play this game? This is the moment that it happens. These are the moments that these guys live for. These are why we say they are what they are. This is why I still have Tom Brady where he is. Okay? This is why the guys that revere a Michael Jordan is what he is. Because when it's time to put the cape on, when it's time to do something that nobody else has done, when the opportunity is there to make history, they put the cape on and they save the city. And they do it. So if Patrick Mahomes is what we say he is, and if he's what we think he's going to be in the history of this league, I have to say that one guy and his head coach, which could be arguably be the best ever, okay, he's going to be in that conversation if this happens. All right. Two guys with Kelsey and with those greatness are greater than the sum of the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm just going to have to go that way. I'll have to go that way. You do not bet against the greats when it comes to this. You don't bet against them. You just don't. Because if you do and you lose, then now you're the dum-dum. Okay? Well, I ain't going to be the dum-dum this time. I will not be shocked if Philly wins. Again, they have the better players. They have the better team. But when we're talking about the greatness and we're talking about the moments and we're talking about making history, this is when those guys show up. This is when those guys show you who they are and what they're about and why they are who we think they are. And that's where I'm going. So I got to go Kansas City, man. I got to go Kansas City. And I'm going Kansas City based on greatness and the moments. And right now, it's the moment. And the moment calls for being great. And the moment calls for doing something we've never seen before. And since it's calling for that, I expect Patrick Mahomes to answer that. And the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's where I'm going. That's where we're at. Of course, we're going to have some post-game on this, and we'll dissect that and take care of that. But you know where we at. Still Broke Podcast. We'll see you in the next one. We out of here. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Peace.